you're already thinking this is going to be like the biggest pain in the ass ever. It's a matter of just stopping and asking yourself one simple question.
And now for something completely different.
Welcome to
Surrounded by Idiots
Radio Podcast.
From the desert to the sea and across this beautiful world of ours, this is the Surrounded by Idiots Radio Podcast. This is Tony Dufresne, PhD. This is episode number 295 or 96 for me over the past 6 years. So this week it's going to be about procrastination. And surprisingly enough, it took me 6 years to get to the point where I would actually do a show on procrastination. I am the king of, at certain moments, procrastinating on the dumbest of things, which is not surprising actually when you get into the research and you take a look in terms of why people do procrastinate. It makes a lot of sense that it's on like small stupid stuff sometimes. So let's dive in. The first thing I want to talk about is really, what is it? Because there's certain levels, and some things you may feel as though you are procrastinating on, or it's something that you're like, oh my God, I can't believe I just can't do this stupid thing, or I put it off so long that now I'm overwhelmed with the fact that I haven't done it, and now it's a mountain out of a molehill type of a thing. Just to get on the same page, procrastination is defined as a person who habitually puts off doing things. Now that's like obviously the general definition of it, because you and I know that there are going to be certain times when you just put off stuff because of certain reasons. Most of the time, I'll tell you the reasons why. But it doesn't mean that you habitually put things off. It just means that it creeps in and it becomes a bothersome characteristic that you have. And in thinking back, and of course, hindsight is totally 20/20. We take a look back and say, God, look at the hours and the days and the years that I have wasted because I just didn't do that thing, or I just didn't start to do that thing. And this happens all the time with everybody, especially, not surprising, with successful people. So consider yourself in good company. And I'm talking about big time uber genius successful people like Einstein and Steve Jobs and movers and shakers of world history. So that's the general definition. What I want to do is mine down a little bit and talk about really what it is. Because really what procrastination is, it has zero to do with the action and with the process. It has everything to do with the emotion you attach to the function, to the action. It's all about the emotion. It's a decision based on emotions not to act on something for a particular reason. Most of the time, and this is where, if you are a procrastinator, it pisses you off, it's based on irrational thought process. It comes from lack of trust in yourself. It comes from a lack of self-confidence that you can do a certain thing. It also comes from this thing that I like to call storyboarding, to where you think that, okay, if I start this one little teeny thing, I guarantee it's going to end up being this monster thing. And what I'm thinking of personally is like answering an email and responding back to somebody. And I know that they're not going to like my response. I know that it's going to lead to them throwing more questions at me, and it's going to be just this total Pandora's box of stuff where I'm going to end up spending a bunch of time. Now here's the funny thing. All that's just in my head, and all that's just a fantasy. It has zero to do with the reality things. And in looking back, if I took the situations like that I have had 9 times out of 10, it doesn't end up being that way. But when you are very self-critical and you are very focused and you're just trying to utilize your time to the highest level of efficiency, which is a problem, by the way, but if that's where how your mind works like mine does, it's a perfectionist thing, then the one thing you don't want to do is add in this one extra little thing, knowing that there's a possibility of it blowing up into this big thing and taking you off your track in terms of where you want to go. Again, it's the emotional rationalization in your head that this little teeny thing is going to end up a big, huge thing, which keeps you from doing things. There's also an aspect of it to where you have, it's a very, very small thing, but you're not super sure how to do it. This happens a lot with me with technology, and especially doing the camera work and the podcasting and the microphone and all that stuff. There are a lot of moving parts in this type of a thing, and probably in your business as well in certain aspects. So when the machine breaks down, and then you have to go back into that machine, back into that watch where there's like millions of pieces and they're little teeny tiny, and you totally forgot how it all got put together in the first place. Or even your car, something's wrong and a light comes on and you're like, God, now your car's still working and running along, but that light is always on because there's some funky weird thing like an auto start stop or something that's getting messed up, and you don't know how it works. But you're thinking to yourself emotionally, man, I don't know how, and I just don't have the time to research this. I mean, where do I go? Where do I go to find the answers? It's that type of thing. All that stuff is rolling in your mind as soon as this comes up, and it's all emotional. And that's the thing that gets us stuck on the smallest, stupidest little things, which is the most infuriating, right? Because if it's a big project, then you kind of get it, because a lot of times if you look at a big project, it's just like eating the elephant. And it's too much at once, and so you have to break it down into small pieces. But then if you have a small piece thing, a teeny tiny thing, you have no justification for procrastinating. So at this moment, what I would like to do is I would like to distinguish between two different things. Basic procrastination, which is the definition that I had mentioned at the very top of the show, and then this subset of procrastination. This is actually the successful person's subset, and it's called incubating. And basically what it is, Steve Jobs was brilliant at this. Basically what incubating is procrastinating on something, not jumping in and like starting to do something, but ruminating about something in a positive way, to where you take a look at it and then you can try to take a look at it from a different angle, and maybe you take a look at it from reverse engineering or from first principle, or you sort of take something and you just try to see it from different perspectives. This way you get a broader understanding of it, you get a more holistic and a more big picture understanding of something, and perhaps you get a better solution to the problem. You could call that functional procrastination, but they call it being an incubator. And that's the difference. You know, a lot of people will sit there and they'll refer to Jobs or Einstein or some famous procrastinator as a positive characteristic trait of them sitting on the couch and eating Cheetos. And next time that happens, through the cheese dust haze, kind of move that out of the way and let them know that it's two separate things. Now that leads us to a solution, because you know I'm all about solutions and trying to figure out how to kind of tweak our lives like at least 1% better every single day so we can kind of move and groove and keep moving forward. I want to mention two things in terms of a solution to this. The first thing is, and this is almost retribution for being a Stoic philosopher, because we get bagged on so often. Stoicism gets just killed for being this non-emotional, go through life as kind of a drone or a robot type of a thing, which is actually the farthest thing from the truth. And the more you understand it, the more you learn that that's not the case at all. It's about putting your emotional state in perspective and in the context of what's going on in front of you. That's what Stoic philosophy is all about. So in terms of procrastination, the number one thing to do is to obviously take the emotional part out of it so you can see it, the task for what it is. So you reframe whatever it happens to be in front of you, like all of a sudden somebody emailing you something, and instead of that initial amygdala response that they're asking for, because you know it could possibly lead to this long drawn out situation, instead of going that route, that emotional route, with your justification for not responding with a 2-sentence response to this person, you reframe it and say, okay, it's in front of me. It's here happening right now. I could literally take less than 2 minutes to create a response to this, and it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean it's going to go anywhere. It just means I'm dealing with this right now. It's that whole adage that you probably heard. If it's something that's under 2 minutes, then you should definitely just do it. Reframing and hijacking that amygdala response, that emotional response, and looking at it very, very stoically in regards to non-emotional and just look at it for what it is. It's just a stupid email response. Give them a couple sentences, appease them, and then you're on top of things. It shows that you're on top of things, and there's a really good chance it will not go any further than that, or if it does, it won't be that big of a deal. The second thing, and a proven solution, is based just on micro action. It's taking the action without thinking about anything, which is a part of the whole reframing thing out of the emotional. But here's what you have to ask yourself if you're going to use this part. You have to ask yourself, okay, the overwhelming thing's already hit. You're already thinking this is going to be like the biggest pain in the ass ever. It's a matter of just stopping and asking yourself one simple question. If I was to start doing this, what would I do first? Most of the time, the answer will be something relatively small or relatively innocuous, something that's not going to build up in your mind as something that will keep you from taking action. Does that make any sense? It puts things in perspective. It reframes onto the cognitive and off of the emotional. It basically reprograms you into thinking, all right, if I was going to do something, well, I could just do this, and it's just a simple solution. Then if you do that, the action part, just doing the one part of it, more than likely, or most of the time, leads to the other parts. And you'll be able to take care of this thing, whereas before, you would just get all in your head. And the emotion would take over, and the death and doom and destruction would take over, and you would not get out of that cloud. Whereas if you just do this, it allows you to shift from procrastination to incubating and action. And really, that's the key when it comes down to it. The key is to be a procrastinator. I mean, tattoo it on your forehead. It's not about the procrastination. It's about what you do with it and how you can use it to become a success and how you can use it to take action in the smallest of ways. And that's the point here. So remember, reframe that emotional response. And if it's an under a 2-minute task, then just do the damn thing. And if you do get stuck, all you have to do is ask yourself, if I was to take a step, if I was to take an action on this thing, what would be the very first thing I would do? And then do that. And that's it. You're not holding your feet to the fire to do anything else except for that first thing. But what happens? Action begets action. And more than likely, it's just going to provide the right amount of momentum for you to make something happen. And that's the point. I hope things are good. You know where to find me. You can reach me at tony@javabud.com, JAVABUD. Hope all is good. I will talk to you next week. Bye.